Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of one Harley Quinn. Golly, that title is just about as long as Dr. Strangelove's. When I saw the first trailer, I thought it was just hot garbage. I thought it was just a big mess. I didn't know what was going on, and it didn't really entice me to see the movie. When I saw the second trailer, at least there was some context to it, and now I was mildly optimistic. Harley Quinn is an anti-hero. I mean, she is trying to do the right thing some of the time, but a lot of the time she's doing the wrong thing. Harley and the Joker break up, and that leaves her without protection from all of the Gotham scum that she had been protected from while being with the Joker. I mean, she has not been a good girl to all of these guys and other people, and now they're looking for their revenge. She gets entangled with a crime lord and inadvertently gathers together a group of heroes. We have Black Canary, Renee Montoya, and the Huntress, who later on become the Birds of Prey. This movie's a lot of fun. I mean, it's frenetic at times, but that's totally in context and in line with the story and the characters. There's a part of the movie towards the beginning of it where I was completely lost. Like logic and parts of the story had been left out, and it was just becoming a mess. And I was getting disappointed with that. And then boom, they resolve it with the story in a way that makes sense and in a way that was told really well. I appreciated that because it was unique, and it was at the moment where I was getting like, hey, what's going on? That the filmmakers probably knew, okay, we're taking them along this journey. We're getting people a little confused, or at least saying, well, gosh, you know what? I think something's not quite right here and I'm missing something. And boo, here you go. We're going to spin it around and then present it to you, and everything's going to come out okay. The fight choreography is wonderful. It keeps the action going, and it's very stylish, and it's a lot of fun to watch. And at one part in one of the fight scenes, there is a continuity issue that you're just like, wait, what? But then one of the characters calls it out, and they resolve it right there for all of us. And I just thought, you know, that was a brilliant little part of the story where you're going to acknowledge something, take us along for this ride. And for some people who didn't know, you're just like, oh, yeah. But for those of us that were like, hey, wait a minute, how did this happen? The character calls it out. Outstanding. I like how each of the actors bring nuances to their characters, making them unique in tiny little ways. Black Canary has a strong sense of injustice, and she also has a lot of integrity. And she's also a spectacular fighter. I loved it. Renee Montoya is outspoken and driven, and she's unyielding in her pursuit of justice. Huntress is a little awkward and unpolished, and that works perfectly with her backstory. Roman Sionis is very quirky and unhinged. I mean, it's almost to the level of Joker a little bit, but he's slightly more refined. But he plays it just this quirkiness to him and this, well, there is an insanity to him because you see lucidity and then it just turns on a dime and then you're like, dude, you are completely nuts. Cassandra Cain is tough, but you got to also remember she's a teenager. And so she has this vulnerability to her also. And I liked it because it translated well to the screen, that she was very genuine. Victor Saz is unhinged, kind of like Roman, but not to the same degree, or at least not in the same ways. He's very deranged and quite nuts, but I guess so is Roman in that way too. They're just different. And at some points, I was having trouble really deciding who was the boss and who was the henchman because they kind of melded back and forth and took turns with being the dominant in that, which I kind of liked because as somebody who is not familiar with the characters as a whole, especially from just the source material, I thought, well, maybe this is a twist. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. I don't know exactly how their relationship works, but I liked it and I liked their interactions. And then we have Harley Quinn herself. I mean, she's got a tough exterior, a tough interior, but a really soft center. And that speaks to her character and all of her backstory that we get to learn at the beginning of the film, which I liked because also for the uninitiated, I mean, even when I watched Suicide Squad, we didn't get much of her. I didn't know much about her. And this really told me, caught me up in a fairly quick manner, but in a way that it was entertaining to watch. It felt full, but there's still more that I could learn from her, which I also like. She's still a mystery in certain aspects, but I feel like I know her enough that I can connect with her, and I can either root for her or not like her, but at least I know why I can do that. There's comedy and humor in this. Some of it felt forced to me, and also a little bit juvenile at times, but I still was able to chuckle and even laugh out loud a few times. Now, there is a part in this that feels like it came straight out of Moulin Rouge. I mean, that is in tone, in shot, in just the way that everything was framed and the way that this scene is being presented to us. It felt exactly like it came from Moulin Rouge. Also, what helped is that you have Ewan McGregor in there as well. At times, the story seems a bit convoluted. By the end, they put the pieces together, albeit not always in a conventional way, but it works, and it's cohesive, and it makes sense, but that also makes it fun, because it's not just your same rote way of telling the story, that they put the spins in there for it and the way that they tell this story, and you have some going back, going forward and then backing and then changing directions and then looking at it from a different angle and then continuing on. And I appreciated that because it kept the story moving. It kept it fresh and it didn't really drag at all throughout it. Margot Robbie is great as Harley Quinn. I mean, she really makes it her own and goes full bore into the character, and which makes it really entertaining to watch. Now, while Jared Leto's Joker isn't in this at all, we get hints of him. Sometimes it's on walls or even through just mentions or other imagery. And I like, though, that because they included that, it provides a continuous feel, even without having him in there. They're continuing the world that had begun through Suicide Squad. This is a very solid entry for DC. It's got great imagery, some really exciting action scenes, and well-choreographed fights. I mean, there is the comedy in there as well, but also just a really good story. Like, I could connect to it, and I was able to be drawn into the characters that were given, surprisingly, a lot of backstory on each of them, enough to make me feel invested, which I appreciated because that was one of the main complaints of Suicide Squad, that you have all of these people just thrown in and we don't know anything about them, and then we're expected to care about them as the movie goes on. And if something bad happens to them or if they're in a scene where their mortality could be in question, I just don't feel anything. In this, I was able to connect with the characters. I was able to empathize with them, or at least really be able to root for them. Like them, hate them, whatever that is, I was able to be drawn into each of them. And I think that was a huge strength that they did with this story. And they didn't make it a super long film. I mean, it's under 2 hours, which is crazy. So they were able to take all of that information, pare it down, but still make it feel complete and compelling and entertaining and engaging. There is a post-credits moment that could make you chuckle, but honestly, if you gotta go, then you're not really gonna miss anything by not sticking around. There's no sex or nudity aside from some art on the walls, a ton of profanity, and a lot of violence. And one scene in particular where he went, oh, because it's just, woo, wow, okay, I guess he's not doing well. He's not going to get up from that. I give Birds of Prey 4 out of 5 couches. So if you could choose one of the Birds of Prey to fight alongside you, who would you choose? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for catching with me.